Happy New Year, dear listeners. Happy New Year. There is a chill in the air, but a flurry of warmth in my belly. Yes, I have just had a cup of Earl Grey, but I also feel jolly well apple crumble with extra custard about the new year. 2016 was a momentous one. We finally got rid of those Euro Johnny bothering Brussels budget banker bureaucrats, and as a result we've got a stronger economy and everyone is feeling much more together and positive about our future. Case in point, I was in Mrs. Van Swenton's tea room the other day and a builder came in. He proceeded to ask for a mocker. Well, this instantly made me assume he was not British, and being a builder, I guessed probably of Polish origin. My good friend Harrison Wood Perry agreed, and loudly proclaimed, "If you come to our country, then order our drinks." We then got around going of the old classic, "Go home Polak, go home Polak," and soon enough the whole cafe was joining in. Now, if that isn't an example of a community coming together to fight bigotry, I don't know what is. But anyway, my dear comrades, I am here to update you with the latest goings-on from my diary. And today it is the tales from my New Year's Eve celebrations. No, Baxter, look, hold it closer. No, closer. Lean forward. Right, there. Okay. Dear Diary, as is the annual tradition, the Warner family held a grand party, which was attended by some of our nearest and dearest. Lord and Lady Picklington, Magnus and Cecilia Henbury Duncliffe and their son Berwick, Mr. and Mrs. Bentley Choriston, and the entire Tullmeister Flankshaw clan. Regrettably, Baxter had to be there as well. Not in a social capacity, you understand. He was there to work, and work alone. Of course, so was I, upkeeping the noble name of the Warner family by showcasing our good humour, fantastic conversation, and love of great food. So one could say Baxter and I had shared a rare moment of solidarity over having to work on New Year's Eve. Upon arrival, the guests were treated to bottles of Bollinger. Baxter, the nitwit, only went and got the 1998. It's New Year's Eve, for goodness sake. We're not drinking common muck fizzy wine now. The hors d'oeuvres were equally disappointing. Caviar, salmon tartare, rocket and brezola. It was hardly thinking outside the box. Nevertheless, the guests were polite and pretended they enjoyed them. My dear sister Amelia and her trendy young chums turned up on their way to a party in London. I can't say she's made the wisest choices. One of her male friends had his head shaved at the sides and back, but had left a big mop of hair on top which he'd filled with some greasy styling product. He had 2 buttons of his shirt undone, some large brown boots that wouldn't look out of place on a woman, and he proceeded to address me as "Dude." What has happened to the gentleman of today? Furthermore, Amelia and her associates rather raided the food and drink supply. I asked Baxter to drive into town and get some more, but he said everywhere would be shut. Well, this really got my goat. How could we have a party without champagne? However, a moment of genius struck me. I remembered Mother had given Baxter a bottle of champagne for his birthday, which was incidentally today, and he'd taken it home to enjoy with his family. Well, I'm sure that was a perfectly good bottle, so I told him to drive to his house and get it for us. He initially said he'd rather let his wife keep it, but after words of protest from the guests and the firm backhand of father across his face, he complied. Amelia and her colleagues left for their party at 8 p.m. Yes, you heard me right, left at 8 p.m. They wouldn't be in London until gone 9. The mind boggles. With them and Baxter both out of our hair, we proceeded to really get the party going. Mother brought the charades board out to roars of approval from the guests. We got into pairs, and, as with the games at Christmas, I would have preferred to go with my brother Wilbur, but sadly, he'd already taken Henry Tullmeister Flankshaw. That left me with Berwick Henbury Duncliffe. Not the brightest sparkle on the diamond, but with my superb skills in miming and guessing on board, I remained optimistic. We were up first, so the pressure was on. Berwick opted to mime first. He stood up and rotated his wrist while pretending to look through a lens. "Film! Film! It's a film!" I heartily declared. 1 point to Berwick and I, please. I was met with a look of confusion from the rest of the party, followed by Father saying that I needed to guess the title of the film. Oh, so we were playing those rules, weren't we? Well, someone might have told me. Anyhow, Berwick proceeded on, and I had to hold myself back from celebrating after correctly working out the film was 1 word long. However, our good run soon took a turn for the worse. He held his arms out horizontally and started swaying around. Well, this was most confusing. I shouted my guesses, one-footed, off-balance, wobbly knees. Berwick then reminded me it was a 1-worded film. I think I let the moment get to me. But in my defence, his mime was appallingly vague. He then started walking around the room, swaying with his arms still locked horizontally. Then I thought I had it. Corbyn. Corbyn in the House of Commons. No, it's a Paxman. Michael Howard. No, Farage. It's a Farage, isn't it? At which point, the egg timer's last grain of sand dropped, and time up was declared. Team Edmund and Berwick had failed to secure a point. Well, this prompted me to launch a full inquiry post-haste. Berwick said he was miming airplane. Well, how on earth was I meant to get that? I firstly inquired as to why the dickens he said it was a film, to which he responded, "It is a film." Well, excuse me, but if I wanted to fly somewhere, I would hardly squeeze myself into the DVD case for Gosford Park, would I? Sensing I had him on the ropes, Father interjected and said there was a comedy film called Airplane. Well, I'd certainly never heard of it, and thus criticised Berwick for his choice. Berwick then had the cheek to say, "Well, how did you get Nigel Farage from what I was doing?" I said that I thought he was clearly referencing political imbalance in a mainstream transition from the long-standing political powers. He then said, "Why would you think that? That's not a film." Well, excuse me, but I believe Prime Minister's Question Time is filmed. Clearly not wanting Berwick to suffer further humiliation, Father told me to stop arguing and let the next team have their go. It's a good job he stepped in, because I was ready to go for a round of fives with that half-wit Berwick. The other teams had their goes, and after round 1, we were tied in last place with Mother and Mr. Tulmeister Flankshaw. This was embarrassing, and as Berwick had miserably failed, I knew it was up to me to get up and pull us out of this mess. I mimed television show. We weren't going to mess around with any of this film nonsense. 3 words. The first one being the. We couldn't have got off to a better start. And by already giving him one of the words, I'd practically done his work for him. But despite my outstandingly accurate actions, that utter nincompoop was giving me the most ludicrous suggestions. The King's Men, the boat trip. What was he thinking? Clearly not a lot. I tried and tried to desperately make him see. It was so blindingly obvious. I could tell by everyone's looks of confusion that they too were thinking, how can this thicko Berwick not be getting it? After one final push, I saw the last grains of sand drop like Labour MPs in an election. And much like the Labour Party, we were finished. I didn't know whether to shout, sit in silence, or just cry. But when Berwick had the temerity to say, "What on earth was that?" I decided to go with the former. It was the Barchester Chronicles! I boomed. I was obviously reenacting the scene when Archdeacon Grantley discusses municipality of the estate with Obadiah Slope. The chuckles of laughter from the room must have made Berwick feel a right fool, so he resorted to petulant, childish behaviour. Well, no one could have got that, he said, ever so smugly. I was already at boiling point, but this really tipped me over the edge. I did my best to fight back the tears, called Berwick a rotten Bertie, and ran gallantly to my room, where I sat for a good 15 minutes until Mother came to calm me down. I asked her how the game went, and she informed me that we had won, which is justice done, as in my mind I deserve to win. I came back downstairs in time for the return of Baxter, so we promptly snatched the champagne out of his hands and proceeded to get tiddly. But I must admit, a glass and a half later, my head was swimming. Being fully aware I had work the next day and feeling rather worn out, I just missed out on the midnight celebrations, declaring bed for oneself at 9:30 p.m. Not even the firework display in our grounds woke me. This morning, I heard that Amelia and her trendy chums returned to Warner Manor for the grand occasion. They stayed up well past 12 a.m, seeing in the new year as youngsters will. Some of them didn't get to bed until 10 past the hour. Well, I never. So, that's it from yours truly for 2016. I wish you all much happiness and success in 2017. And just remember that although most of you won't have riches, education, or even any prospects, I will be here to tell you how well my life is going. So every cloud really does have a silver lining, or gold lining in the Warners' case. Happy New Year, one and all.